I'm on and nobody's on the webinar. Ah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Awesome, thank you. Some are here. Great. Oh, and some familiar names. I see familiar names, which is so lovely in the chat. Hello, Teresa and John and Joshua. It's great to have you here. Okay, so let me just see how many we've got on here. All right, well, I'm going to get started because it's 11:01. So welcome. As you're waiting, or as you're just coming on the chat, I thought in the name of Thanksgiving, I would like you to just put in the chat what you're most grateful for this season. So in the spirit of energy leadership and getting moving forward, let's put some energy into gratitude. So as you're doing that, I just have one thing to do. This is a new system, and I'm Jessica. It's okay. Ooh, some family. Got the behind the scenes issue here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So just 1 second here. Thank you for your patience. Okay, what's happening here? Okay, all right, so thanks to Jessica, she's my co-host and she's gonna be doing some of the behind the scenes things. And so now she's my co-host and she can do that. All right, so we've got thankful for son-in-laws coming, ooh, back from his deployment. Thank you for sharing that. I bet that's a big celebration. Family, great, awesome. Okay, so let's see here. So about a couple years ago, a Gallup poll revealed that more than 50% of the people would leave their jobs tomorrow if they could. That probably includes some of the people on this webinar today. And the main reason cited for that is that they don't like their managers or the culture. It's not a fit. And so those aren't the only reasons, but those are the two main reasons. And so there are a bunch of people in jobs they don't love. And this impacts our businesses for certain. As managers, as owners, there's just nothing worse than having employees that are disengaged. And this causes businesses and Americans thousands and billions of dollars. And so we can do better, and that's why we're here. We're here to explore energy leadership and see how that can help. And so I think I know most of you, but my name is Jenny Rulon, and I'm really here to share what I think is a certainly attainable, optimistic vision for you and for your workplace. And so what typically takes a day or at least 2 hours to cover with energy leadership, we're going to pack into 1 hour. So it's going to have a lot of information. And I'm going to be providing slides with information. And when I get to those slides around each of the levels of energy, you'll see them, there'll be columns. I'm just going to suggest that you do a screenshot instead of really trying to take so many copious notes. And you're also going to get a recording, a link to a recording of this so you can watch again. And then at the end, I'll share ways that you can take a deeper dive into this if it interests. And so today we're going to talk about catabolic and anabolic energy and the 7 levels of energy within those, and really looking to shift to be a creator that's, I like to say, that inspires more than perspires their team. So we want more inspiration and less perspiration. So on that note, before we move forward, I'll share a little bit about me in case there are folks on here that don't know who I am. So before joining the Turning the Corner team in last February, I had my own business with training and coaching. And so I'm a certified coach, and I've utilized energy leadership with thousands of people and teams and with one-on-one folks. And I'm super passionate about it because what I've seen is this tool really change their workplace, and not only their workplace, but their personal life as well. And it's done the same for me. So I really feel like this is an amazing self-awareness tool. So logistics before we get going here, we're going to use the chat in a typical manner as most people use the chat. But if you have a question specifically for me or for Jessica, who is my sidekick here on the call today, I would just ask that you would put the questions in the Q&A, because sometimes when they are in the chat, we lose them because the chat goes up. And with the questions, we're sure to, if you put them in the Q&A, we're sure to see those. Okay, so before we get started, we're going to do a quick poll. So Jessica, you want to pull up the poll for us. And let me do a, while she's doing that, I'll do my screen share here. So just take a minute, and I ask that you, when you answer it, don't answer how you wish it were. Answer how it really truly is. I've got something in my mouth here. Wow, okay, thank you, thank you. So we've got everyone's answered. I'm gonna stop the poll, so if anyone wants to change, we're good to go? Okay, I'm gonna share the results. So, can you see, are you able to see the results? Everyone? Yes, okay, great. All right, so 100% of you, 100% said at the end of the day, you typically feel drained. And that's why we're here, because imagine what it would be like if you were to answer energized or even neutral. So hopefully what we talk about today is going to be really helpful for that. Okay, all right, so let's get moving forward here. Okay, so we all have experiences that shape our beliefs, our behaviors, and we develop default tendencies from these. So it's like we have a filter, and everything that comes through that filter becomes our way of thinking, of believing, of taking action. And so unless we have some way of getting a reality check, our default tendencies are firing without us consciously even knowing that. And so we go through doing the same things that we typically do day after day, and we get pretty much the same results. And so I like to equate this to driving. Imagine staying in the same lane every time you get onto the freeway. We're not changing lanes, we're just on that same lane. We're not getting off on the exit, we're not looking over our shoulder to change lanes, we're just in that lane. And that's like our default tendency, is that lane. Now, along with that, there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. It's known as RAS. And it's always scanning our surroundings for things that are problematic or familiar or out of place. And it's always trying to make sense of what we see and what comes up. And so here, we have a little bit of a double whammy, because we've got this reticular activating system, and then we also have our default tendencies. So we tend to see the same things, and then we tend to see the same problems. And so our reticular activating system is picking up on something that's familiar and continues to point out those familiar or common situations, common concerns over and over again. It doesn't interrupt the system. And so we literally see the same thing over and over again. And so energy leadership is a way of interrupting this process, this system, so that we can consciously decide what we want to see in our surroundings, what we want to see in others, and what we ultimately see in ourselves. And so when I speak of energy, I'm not referring only to physical energy, but also to emotional, mental, psychological energy. And specifically, I'm referring to your particular energetic makeup or profile. And we'll get into this more in a minute here. Ultimately, like Einstein and many scientists said, who followed, have told us everything in the universe is energy. And if we match the frequency of the reality that we want, we cannot help but get that reality. So the ultimate goal with these 7 levels of energy or energy leadership is really to be able to choose the energy that's going to best suit us for that situation. All right, so there's 2 kinds of overarching energy that are necessary to understand as we dive in. All right, so Based on how we think, how we feel, how we act, we're constantly experiencing and sharing either catabolic energy or anabolic energy. Catabolic energy breaks things down, anabolic energy builds things up. So think about cortisol. Cortisol is catabolic. In moments of fight or flight, our body produces cortisol so that we can exit quickly. It literally saves our lives. This catabolic energy of cortisol, it saves us from getting eaten by that lion, right? It allows us to run away. And so thank goodness for us for that. And then anabolic energy, you can think about dopamine. It allows us to expand and rejuvenate. So let's pretend, I've got this cup on your slide here. Let's pretend that you're only given 1 cup of water a day. You'd probably be pretty intentional about when you drink that water. Or you'd come up with another way to get more water. This is a great analogy for what we're talking about today. 1 cup of energy. So most of you said you were drained at the end of the day. And as we go through this, I want you to kind of think in terms of how this impacts you at work, how this impacts you showing up and doing the things and creating the environment or being the manager or the owner that you really want to be. So this was all created by a man named Bruce Schneider, and I became a certified coach through a business he started called IPEC that utilizes energy leadership. So props to Bruce for that. All right, so let's dive in here. Here are the 7 levels, and we're going to go into each one of these into greater detail in a minute. But before we do that, it's important to note that no 2 people have the same energetic makeup, and it's kind of like the stock market. Our energy is constantly going up and down, and we can also hold more than space for more than 1 level at a time. And so where your average resonates, where your energy resonates on average determines your viewpoint of the world, your physical and mental health, your ability to lead, your level of success. And so ultimately your average resonating level, or what we call ARL, is the average of all your ins and outs from day to day, your thoughts and your actions. And we'll get into that in a minute too. But here's the bird's eye picture of it all. The good news is that we have the ability to alter our energy or our level of consciousness. And that has a huge impact on our jobs, our outside of, in our personal lives, really with everything, with everyone, and even with ourselves. And so levels 1 and 2 are catabolic, and as we move up, it becomes more anabolic. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, oh, levels 1 and 2 are bad. So we are just such creatures of judgment. And so in order to kind of go through this in a different kind of way, I invite you to suspend judgment. And so since we are all creatures of judgment, I'd like to give an analogy to help. So I want you to think of the levels like different lenses in sunglasses. Imagine if you're a skier and you have these bright yellow lenses on and you start to go down the hill on a super sunny day and the sun is shining and white snow everywhere, and you're not going to be able to see the shadows in the moguls, or you're not going to be able to see the ice patches. And so you're going to go down the hill feeling pretty miserable. Or perhaps you're a swimmer and you've got in goggles again that are orange or yellow, and it doesn't help you with a reflection in the pool and you're running into the side lanes. Or maybe even it's just a 3D movie and the movie was created or made for you to have on these 3D lenses and you don't have them on. And so just like these lenses, there's not a bad or good lens. It's just different lenses serve you better in different situations. And that's how I want to invite you to move through these different levels of energy. And there are advantages and disadvantages to each level, and we'll cover that. So before we move forward, are there any questions about catabolic or anabolic energy and what we've covered so far? In the Q&A, I don't see any in the Q&A, so I'm going to keep moving forward. So before that, I want to go, what I want to do is I want to make this really applicable for all of you. So in addition to you ending your day completely drained, this will help. But in addition, let's look at 2 different areas. We're going to take a poll and we're going to look at 2 different scenarios for you to choose from. And we're going to take one of those scenarios through each of the levels. So Jessica, if you want to bring that poll up. So ultimately looking at what topic would you like to take through the 7 levels of energy? And by the way, nobody can see your answer. Okay, we've got more on communicating through tough issues, but you know what? I'm also just gonna I'll bring in the big quit on some of these too. Okay, great. So it's about, most people want to do communicate through tough issues. Okay, all right, great, thank you. That's what we'll do. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, so level 1. So with each level, there is a win-lose kind of intention that helps us to better understand the feel of the level. And what I want you to focus on is the feel or the intention of the thought or of the action. So with level 1, it's I lose, I always lose. And ultimately, this is victim thinking. So people in this mindset feel like a victim to certain events or circumstances, thoughts, beliefs, and by victim, all I mean here is you're at the effect of, so pretty powerless. So some core thoughts here might be, why is this happening to me? Or there's nothing I can do to make this better, it's the times. So that would be the thought around the big quit, turning into a big restart. That would be the main thought there. With communication, the thought would be, there's no point in me communicating anyway because nothing's going to change. And so we probably have felt that way, especially around conflict. We sometimes don't even want to jump in because we're afraid of that. And so here, those are some of the thoughts. Now let's look at the emotions. The main emotion is sadness here. And it could also be worry, fear, doubt, feeling inadequate, feeling like I just don't know what to do, feeling powerless. So as we're going through the levels, self-awareness is key. And what I'm going to invite you to do is to start in the chat, start exploring what are the triggers that have you in each individual level. And if you don't want to share in the chat, that's okay too. But sometimes if you do share in the chat, it's helpful because for other people that are also on. So think about at work, what has you feeling worried or feeling guilty or feeling inadequate. Start really tapping in and being aware of what might be prompting this level of energy within. And then the core action and the result with level 1 is basically lethargy. You don't take any movement because you don't feel like it's going to help. And so again, you take things personally at this level. There's little to no engagement and no ability to lead. Those are all the disadvantages. Now, if you remember, just like those lenses in the sunglasses, there are advantages. And so the advantage to level 1 is that you get attention from others, and it allows you to hibernate and protect yourself from harm. So if you think about life, there are a lot of ups and downs in life. And sometimes when we are faced with a lot of things that we view as hard or tough, level 1 can be a really nice place to be. So hibernating. A lot of hibernating, especially when COVID first started. A lot of level 1 around COVID. So, and that makes a lot of sense. It's a very big issue, and people are literally dying. So this level 1 would be normal. Okay, so communicating through tough issues, again, we're avoiding them altogether. Retaining employees, just so you know, the thought might be, I'm constantly worried about employees leaving. I'm not listening to what they want, and I feel completely powerless, so I'm not even going to try to give them that because I don't feel like I can. There's really nothing to do here. It's the big quit, and it's just the nature of our times. And so that would be level 1. Okay, moving along. Level 2. So level 2 is I win and you lose. So do you feel the difference? With level 1, it's I lose, I always lose. With level 2, it's I'm going to win and you're going to lose. So a lot more heat and fire here than level 1. And it actually pulls in some energy to take some action. So even if it's yelling at someone or looking for others to blame, there's action. Where at level 1, there's not action. So here the core, some of those core thoughts around communication, it would be I'm going to get my own way no matter what. So there's a lot of blame here, blame on others, and that's how our communication would show up. With the big quit, it would be people don't work well from home. I'm not going to let them. If they want to stay here, they're going to have to come in. It's not my job to take care of my team. These people that are quitting can't expect me to bend over backwards. Those are kind of some of the thoughts that would come up. With those emotions, it's anger. So here it's anger, frustration. Sometimes people at work say it's not really anger so much, but man, am I frustrated a lot. So again, in the chat, I'm not seeing any kind of self-awareness notes, but when do you feel this way at work? When do you feel frustrated or like you're struggling? So take a minute just to think about that, and you write it down either on your paper or in the chat as I move on to the next column, which is our core action and results. So when we're in this place of conflict thoughts or frustrating emotions, we tend to get a lot done by ourselves, and that can be a real advantage. And we can motivate others temporarily, right? So we all have that manager or boss or even, you know, family member who knows really how to light a fire under you. The thing is that that doesn't last for long term. We can alienate others, that's an advantage. Unproductive, we have really dissatisfied teams, and our teams are not loyal. They're not loyal to us. And so, yeah, so thanks for that example, Josh, when things aren't going as planned, oh, and we worked so hard for it. Yeah, so what I'm hearing a little bit there is we have some attachment maybe to this end result. And if they're not exactly as we wanted it, then we get frustrated. Yeah, especially as a business owner, that's for certain. Okay, so we're going to talk about another way to look at that. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. All right. Okay, so those are levels 1 and 2. Those are both catabolic energy, completely catabolic. They're necessary, they're not good or bad, they're going to serve us in certain situations. We just want to be really choosy about when we put those lenses on or utilize those levels. Okay, I don't see anything in the Q&A, so I'll keep on moving on to 3. Are you guys in the chat? Are you guys following along? I know this is a lot of information, and I'm used to having webinars where I can see people, and we set this one up a little differently. So give me a high five or something in the chat, just so I know that we're all here together. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, thanks, Teresa. Nice to have you here. Okay, cool. All right, so let's move on to 3. 3 is the trickiest of all levels. So 3 is where we start to introduce some anabolic energy. And it's all about, you know what, I'm going to win, and I hope you do too. So this mindset, our level of energy, is the first level, again, where we're experiencing anabolic energy. And it's really about understanding that what is happening to me, I'm responsible for it. And we also rationalize everything here. And so here, the result is that we forgive ourselves and others because we can rationalize their behavior so that we can continue to be productive. And the result is that while you might be judging them, you're also cooperating with them. So we haven't let go of the judgment here, but we're able to cooperate and move forward. So again, right now, a lot of level 3 energy in businesses just getting through. I call this the fine level. That's fine. So it's fine. So the big quit. So here, these thoughts might be, look, we need to get this done. We've got a problem here. How can we fix it? We need to make sure it's done right. And I'm probably not going to make a decision unless I know it's going to work and I know it's going to be right. And I've got to manipulate my team here so that we're able to be productive. With communication, it's ultimately, I'm going to listen to my team. And I am going to make the decision, I'll do what's best for me, but I'm going to listen to my team. So that would be the 2 examples that we had in the poll. And the main emotion here is forgiveness. And that's because we're tolerating people. We're tolerating their decisions. So that's why this is tricky, because, gosh, if we experience a lot of level 3 energy on our day-to-day, that's just fine. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to run a business or be in a business that's just fine. And so this is a really great energy level to keep us out of levels 1 and 2 because it feels so heavy to be in level 1 and 2 a lot, and probably not the level of energy as people in our business that are running the business or managing our business. We want to really tap into something even higher. And so the core action and result here is that we're going to cooperate and rationalize. We don't let others stand in the way of our productivity, so that's an advantage. We really block the negativity of others. So if that person is showing up in a way that maybe is bothersome, we can block that so that we can continue to be productive. And the disadvantage is that we sugarcoat. We're really sugarcoating a lot of things. And when things don't go well, we can tell ourselves, well, I did my best. And that prevents us from striving for something more. And so again, also it could be kind of manipulative at this level. So if you're physically able and you're willing to play along, and or you're a kinesthetic learner, I'm going to ask you to get out of your seat. I know this is, some movement here, so if you want, play along. I'm going to invite you to get out of your seat, and I want you to get down into a ball. And I want your position just down, looking at your feet in a ball. And I want you to note how many things you can see, and what are they from that position. Okay, so stay down there. Just look around, and then come back. And in the chat, I want you to report back how many things you can see, and perhaps what were they. And maybe if you didn't play along, just imagine that you were in a ball. What did you see? So in the chat, what did you see? Legs, shoes, feet, floor. Okay, so 4 things. Yeah, maybe there's some dust down there. You could see that too. Yeah, so typically speaking, from that space, we can't see very many things. Now, if you lift your head up in that ball, you can see way more things. So level 1 is when you're in that ball and you're looking down. We can only see maybe 3 or 4 things. Level 3, we're still in the ball, but we can lift our head up, and from down at that lower space, we can see more. We can see more opportunities and solutions. So when I'm talking about businesses and running a business, if I'm living from this energy space of level 1 or 2, imagine I can't see a lot of solutions or possibilities or opportunities. At level 3, I can see more. And we want to get to a space where we can see all of them. And so that's coming up here. All right. So let's figure out how we can stand up and see it all. So level 4. So this level is you win. How can I help you win? So it's all about the other person now. And so a lot of people, and I know there's some folks on the call here who have this as their primary level of energy. And it's all about serving other people. It's about compassion and caring. And so here, again, we're more focused on the win for someone else, and that even supersedes the desire to win for ourselves. And so many people think that they're at a level 4 because they want to help others, but their intention is to first help themselves because they're going to feel better about helping someone else. They're the wounded helper. So that's something to be aware of as we go through each of these columns here. So the core thought, when it truly is a level 4, is I'm concerned about my team because we're short-staffed. So that would be with a big quit. With a communication piece, it would be asking the team, what is your win here and how can I help you get there? Communicating through difficult situations before we even start the conversation with someone. It's literally asking them, what is your win in this conversation? Or in this scenario, what would be a giant win for you? And then you take action to help them reach their win. Or I wonder how I can help you. So there's some thoughts that we have when we're at this true level 4 place. The concern is our core emotion. There's also giving, supportive, helping, all of those really compassionate, service of others kinds of things. And then our core action, our advantages is that we take little personally because we're so focused on the other person that feedback becomes less personal. And that's a pretty powerful thing in the workplace. We build loyalty. Imagine, I've worked with someone who they came to work and they were constantly willing to help other people on their projects. Man, you know what? I would go to bat for them. So we build this really loyal kind of workplace. The disadvantage is sometimes we can get caught up in other people's drama. And as I said before, sometimes our intention is really about being liked. And that's actually, more of a level 1 kind of energy level. So you really got to look at the energy level behind it. Okay, so with the big quit, it would be asking our current team, because we know the #1 way to retain, through the big quit into this new restart is to retain our employees. And so it's really asking them, it's doing those stay interviews that Turning the Corner talks about so often. It was mentioned in the last webinar and it'll probably be mentioned in many of the trainings that we do. It's those, instead of exit interviews, it's giving stay interviews. Finding out from people what's making them stay and doing more of that. Asking them how they're impacted by all of this and how can we, make it better for them. So maybe even shifting some of what you're doing or taking some of the responsibilities, instead of making them work 80 hours a week, maybe it's figuring out what are some alternative ways. to keep them, to retain our employees. And so with communication, again, it's asking, what's your win here and how can I help you? All right, so we're going to do another poll here. So if you want to pull that up, and this one is indeed around impact. So when we're trying to get someone, and it could have to do with both examples of the big quit and communication, it really is about course of action. So think about how you interact with others when desiring a course of action. And then choose, look below, instead of circling, just choose which one that best describes you. This one's going to take a little bit longer, a little bit more thought. Oh, you know what's so interesting is I don't see who's answering these, but I can almost guess about some of them just based on some of the folks that I know that are in this webinar. That's fun. Okay, so we've got 5 people out of 7 who have participated. So I'll give you 5 more seconds to participate. 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right, let's share those results. Okay, so most people are asking a lot of questions, carefully listening to their response so that they can find common ground. And that's actually level 5. And we're going to get there in a minute. We have one person that says, I'm in the moment. I use my intuition and our synergy to guide us on what action to take. I bet I can guess who answered that way. And so we've got level 5, a lot of level 5 energy shown in this answer. And then level 6 is the intuition. So let's keep moving forward. So the first one, work so I get my own way. I'm more experienced. That's more of a level 2 response. I listen to other person and stay focused on how I can achieve my goal. That would be level 3. So I'm listening, but I'm constantly thinking of how are we going to achieve my goal. I'll put the other person first, show I care for them and I'm willing to give so that they walk away feeling really good. That would be level 4. And then I'll do most anything to avoid confrontation. For those of us who avoid confrontation at all costs, that would be level 1. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing the nuances between each of these levels now. All right, so moving on, let's move on to level 5. So in my opinion, in all of my work that I've done with a lot of business owners and managers and executives, this is the level that you want to embrace more of in your business. This is what I find typically speaking, this is the level of opportunity. And so rightfully so, it's the opportunity for each of you. Okay, so here it's all about, we're both winning or we're not playing. It's this win-win, more anabolic energy. And so a great example of level 5 thinking can be found in Edison attempts to invent the light bulb. So after his 999th attempt, his assistant said, how come you keep trying when you continue this and you just fail time and time again? And Edison responded with, don't be silly. I've simply learned the 999th way to not invent the light bulb. And along his journey, there were many other inventions and key scientific findings throughout his 999 times to find that light bulb. And so level 5, people who tap into level 5 are often finding meaning, purpose in everything they experience. And so here we're not driven by fear, we're really driven by opportunity. And the advantage, let me move on here. The advantage, there's so many advantages here. The main thought is reconciliation. And so here, we're really creating synergy and collaborating with others. And we're finding opportunities everywhere, even when things don't work out as planned or they don't meet our outcome. And so the advantage, well, let me rewind here. So with the big quit, it might look something like, I've always wanted to up my game as far as my people leadership. And now's the opportunity. I've always wanted to offer training and coaching to my employees. You know what? Here's the opportunity for me to trust my employees and try something new. Let them work from home part-time. You know, create this blended way of being in the workplace. Create a culture where the people are committed to it and see what happens. So someone with level 5 lens, they're the creative, scientific opportunist who's just trying lots of different things. With communication, it's this idea of, gosh, up until now we've done okay. Even with poor communication, I can't even imagine where we're going to go once we get on the same page around communication. So those would be the core thoughts around communicating with someone else. We're really curious. Oh, curiosity is a major emotion in level 5. Really curious about what's going to happen. So we're trying new things. We're curious about our employee stance, and we want to figure out a win-win. And so that's what drives our communication, even when there's a difference, because here, differences are welcome. And so when we have this mindset that that's how we view differences, even when we're looking to let someone go, we have this mindset that, wow, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to really help them find a position that's going to be more in alignment with who they are. And it's going to be an opportunity for them to find something they're more passionate about. So we really create a peace of mind. Now, if you notice, levels 3 and 5 are more head-centered, and levels 4 and 6, you'll see, are going to be more heart-centered. So here it's this peace of mind, and our core action really is acceptance and opportunity. We take little to nothing personally at this level because we find the win-win. We're finding opportunities everywhere. The disadvantage is sometimes those of us who tap into this can experience paralysis by analysis because we see so many opportunities, we don't know which one to take. And we might be a little disengaged from our emotions because this is more of a head-centered level. So now you're standing up or you're even sitting at your chair. I want you to just look around. Look around. You can see so many things. I can say, you know, thousands of things that I can see. And that's like this level 5. Because when we have this stance and when we have this level 5 lens on, there are so many opportunities that are outside of our reticular system. We can be outside of our default tendencies. And now we can see them because we're looking for opportunities. It's kind of like that person who says, wow, you're so lucky, to successful people. And quite literally, it's like they're walking around with a black cloud over them. That's what this level 5 is like, because we are constantly in this space of seeking out opportunities, and so that's what we find. Alrighty, y'all still with me? We've got 2 more levels. Okay, so level 6 is thinking about questions as we're moving along too, so we're going to have some time for some good questions. So at level 6, everyone always wins. And so a couple people, I think even that I've invited to this call, I said, oh, you've got a lot of level 6, I can already tell. So this is going to be in relation to you. So everyone always wins here. And the magic at this level is that we don't worry about winning because the perspective is that we're always winning. And this also means that no one ever really loses. And so because of that, we're focused more on the journey, because everything has purpose and a value, and this allows us to be really in the moment and really in alignment with our values. So what I do when I'm coaching teams and individuals and they want to really tap into this level more, is I invite them to learn what their values are and make sure that no matter what they're doing, that they're in alignment with our values. Because when that happens, we're usually more successful anyway. And we don't have to keep a hold or a grip on the outcome. We're just more in alignment with who we really are. And so with communication, problems just don't exist here, even with the big quit. Their problems aren't here. So we're just going to see what happens, and we're going to have a conversation as we move forward. So that's a good example of how not every level is, these higher levels are not going to serve you in every situation in a business and even in your own personal life. There are going to be times when you want to tap into even level 2 energy. Level 2 energy gets a lot of action going. A lot of social justice issues were founded from that level 2 energy. So again, as we move up in these levels, the idea isn't that we're always in them. It's that we can access them and tap into them when we want. And so creative geniuses tap into this level a lot. I mean, look at Martin Luther King Jr., who was able to take all these different people and get them together. So wisdom emerges here. Here's when we're tapping into our intuition. It's this level of synthesis where there's this connection between you and everyone else. And so the big quit, our thoughts around the big quit might be, oh my gosh, I am so curious how this is all going to end. I can see so many different perspectives at once, and I can see the long view instead of the short view, and I can see the whole in lieu of the parts. So I've got this really, a lot of business owners can tap into this a lot because they're big vision thinkers. And so it's really all about, this isn't the big quit, it's a natural part of life. I mean, this is natural that people are leaving to be more in alignment with what they value. With communication, let's just see what happens when we have the conversation. So we're not seeing right and wrong so much anymore here. So here we feel and connect without judgment. We've got high emotional intelligence at this level, and we access our creativity and our intuition. The disadvantage is that we might not be really grounded. Okay, questions, comments? Here, this level is all about joy. So the main core emotion is joy. We're in flow. I mean, think about the last time that you were just in flow at work. This happened to me on last Friday when I was putting together some curriculum. I was working on the deck and I looked at the clock and it was like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. And then I felt like maybe, gosh, an hour went by, and 3 hours later, I completed the task and I was just so in flow on the project. So think about when you're able to tap into this flow at work or even, at home. Okay, can you even feel, let's just tap into the energy right now around feeling, even when we're talking about the levels. So even when we just talk about level 6, we feel better. Even when you're listening to level 6, it just feels a little bit lighter than when we're talking about levels 1 and 2. Again, awareness, really being aware of, what level of energy we're looking at. And appropriately so, that's a bird flying away, not being grounded like level 6. Okay, so energy level 7, this is where winning and losing are illusions. These are just terms that humans have created to help us get through the game of life, which life is a game. So here, this is the level of non-judgment, of total objectivity and fearlessness. So, and we all tap into this. We all tap into this place. And here it's where we see things objectively, We feel so free, we're not judging anything or anyone, even our own selves. I mean, think about what that's like for even a minute, to judge nobody else or ourselves in complete, objectivity and no fear. What I really love about level 7 is that from this level, we can tap into any of the other levels at will. And so we can recognize the advantage and the disadvantage and to tap into those appropriately. With communication and the big quit, you wouldn't, our thoughts wouldn't necessarily, we would have no fear around either one. Because quite frankly, this is different dimensions and different realities here. So when I think of level 7, I think of Albert Einstein, because he said, I don't even know where these ideas come from, they just come to me. And so that's what level 7 is like. I kind of think it is like the color white, where that encompasses all of the other colors in the spectrum. And we're just creating each moment using all of the different levels at will. So the advantage, of course, is that we can create things at will, and the disadvantage is we can be perceived by others as being really disconnected. Okay, so we've come to that place where we've discussed all of the different energy levels in a really quick amount of time. We've discussed catabolic and anabolic energies. Is there anything else before we hop into our call to action and kind of talk about how you can take a deeper dive into this? Questions, comments, anything in the Q&A. So I'm going to give you a moment to just think about each of these levels, maybe even think about where you think you typically, what your default tendency would be, what your average resonating level of energy might be. Ooh, yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like I've gone through all 7 levels in the last year and a half, almost in perfect order. That makes sense, given what's been going on. Yeah. So lots of times we tap in, so maybe we're typically, let's say we typically maybe resonate at a level 5 or 6. And when something happens, we maybe dip down into level 1 and we hibernate for a while, and then maybe we get angry. And that helps us get out of level 1, and so then we tip back into level 3, right? It's like the stock market, up and down. Yeah, Josh, I use that example for you. Typically around that 5 or 6, for certain. Okay, so no other comments. I don't see anything in the Q&A, so let's just look at a call to action. So we hope this is, what I hope, and this is just, you know, my dream, is that this is like learning to ride a bike. Once we know about the 7 levels of energy, we can use it as a self-awareness tool. So I remember when I first learned this, I was constantly like, oh, that's level 2, oh, that's level 3, oh, that's level 5. And sometimes I was wrong, sometimes I was right, but I was more aware. And so when I entered into a situation, even just a thinking situation, I'm processing, I'd be like, oh, that's a level 2 thought. Is that the thought I want to have? No, what might be a different thought? And so our first call to action is all about self-awareness. Really paying attention to our thoughts and our emotions and maybe even our behaviors and track their energy level. So really dive into the different energy levels, because it's just such an easy, it's an organized method to be more aware, quite frankly. And then the second part of the call to action is really catching ourselves when we're looking at a problem, when we're seeing a problem. This is especially for us business owners and managers. When we see a problem, ask ourselves, what is the opportunity here? So potentially what you're doing is you're moving from a level 3 to a level 5. What's the opportunity here? How can this elevate my business? Or why is this happening for me instead of to me? So those are some questions. And you might want to take a screenshot of that or jot those down, because I think those are really helpful. On my computer, I have these stickies, and I've got just reminders, and one of them is, you know, what's your frequency? What's your energy? On the sticky, just to help me remember to be more aware. Okay, and then we also have an opportunity at turning the corner. So there's two different things. So the first thing is there's actually an assessment that you can take that will give you your energetic profile. And at the top, that's where you are typically in your everyday, in this top graph. In the second graph is how you react to stress. And then that ARL is your average resonating level of energy. And so we know that the average resonating level of energy of people that take this is right around a 3. What we also know is that there's been a study done of about over 100 people, a sample group who have all taken this assessment. And the difference between those who scored a 2.5 and those who scored only slightly higher at a 3.0 showed that those ARL differences, those average resonating level differences at only 0.5 higher, reported 20% increase in financial success, 17% improvement in time management, 16% in productivity, and the list goes on and on. And for those of you that are statistics enthusiasts, you know that these are pretty significant numbers when it comes to stats. And so just think about what raising your average resonating level would do for you. And then in addition, I'm really excited to just share with you about our leadership lab. We started this last year, and we had several cohorts go through. And Jessica put a link in the chat, but it's just this amazing group of leaders that get together, and we meet and we take the assessment and we do 360s and we talk about blocks. You know, what's holding us back from experiencing those energy levels, and how is that impacting our business? So really take a deeper dive in figuring out how can we improve our culture, and what are my values, and how can we create succession plans for our teams. So lots of really powerful stuff in that, and our next cohort starts in February. And then finally, this book right here, it's called Energy Leadership, and it's by Bruce Schneider, the person who came up with this method. And this takes you through from the manager's perspective. So the story is about someone who hires a coach, and the coach is helping this manager with their energy levels. And so it's a really quick and easy read to help integrate this information. So the most important thing here is not necessarily this training, but it's what you do with the information. So the magic really happens in the follow-up. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to either look into some additional ways that Turning the Corner is offering, or go back to those those action steps that we have provided. So I know that's a lot, and I cannot believe I timed it exactly as I had planned. I wanted 10 minutes to leave for questions or feedback or comments or maybe even thoughts where, oh, I didn't even realize that I was tapping into this level energy in this situation, or anything that's coming up for you right now. No, I can't believe there are no questions. That's very rare. So either you did not get any of it because it was just an hour, or you completely have it all. Nothing? All right, Jessica, anything coming up for you? Oh, okay. Josh, is it okay to live in all of the levels? So, yeah, get angry. There's no judgment of the levels. So they can all be fruitful and helpful, and we're human beings and we experience a range of emotions. And by the way, we can hold place for 2 emotions at the same time. Yeah, you're being audited. You're very angry about that. I can imagine. Yes. So we can hold space for both of those, for more than one level at a time. The thing is, we want to use our energy wisely. So remember that cup at the beginning. You're only given so much energy. And when we're angry, it uses all of our cup of energy. And so at the end of the day, we're completely drained. As most of you stated at the beginning, everyone on the call has stated that at the end of the day, they feel totally drained. And there's something that we can do about that. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. Yeah, thanks, Josh. I love your humor. Jessica, anything that you can think of to add, maybe? Jessica knows the levels of energy as well. So anything that maybe I missed or skipped or?
Not that I can think of. I just like hearing you do this a second time. It makes me realize how much we all do move throughout each of them, and that we're not always the same one. And yeah, we're not identified by a certain level. We just move throughout the ranges.
Oh, great. So lots of what I'm hearing is that less judgment about the levels. Yeah. What we do know, so you see this assessment is actually someone's assessment, and I just pulled it up. So for example, this person at the 3.03, we know if they could move up even more, they're going to have more increase in all of those things that we talked about. Time management, success, less judgment as we move up in those levels, less attachment to outcomes, more being in the flow, in the zone, that kind of thing. And this person, just to take a look, so his primary level of energy is a level 4, and that's at the top chart. So typically that's where he is. What really brings his ARL down, or when he's stressed out, he's really tapping into level 1 and 2, and that's normal. When we're stressed, this is typical. What's not typical about this one is his primary when he's stressed out is this level 2, and that's anger. Most people actually, their primary is level 1. Any questions from anyone that has actually taken the assessment and has any questions specific to them?
Do you have any key advice how to move up levels? Like training on a daily basis to yourself, like asking certain questions?
Great, yeah. So I think those are the call to action. So the first step is always self-awareness. So catching yourself in the different levels. Really just what I do when I do one-on-one calls with folks, or even with teams, I ask them, so over the next 2 weeks, how many days are you willing to really be more aware? And they'll say, 6 days over the next 2 weeks. So they'll choose their days, they'll put it in the calendar, so they're sure to do it. And then they'll just take note of where their energy is. Okay, I notice myself having thoughts, level 1 thoughts. They're just tracking their level 1 and 2 thoughts. And at the end of the day, they have all these marks on the paper, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how often I'm at those levels. It's alarming. And so that awareness will start them to pay more attention. And then they'll get to the next time they catch themselves looking at something from a level 1 or 2 lens, they can ask themselves, okay, what is my opportunity here? Or even, when you're in a level 1, that's a lot of times that can feel really heavy and depressing. It might even be, what's one thing that I can do today that will serve me well? Just asking themselves that one question even. can be helpful. And ultimately, we didn't get a lot into different tools because that's what we do in the leadership lab. And if you were to get your assessment done and debrief, it's a little bit more focused on that. But these are some call to actions that I think are helpful. Okay, well, on that note, I just want to thank you. I'm just so pleased to have you here today. And I can almost guarantee that if you start to be more aware of your energy levels, it will significantly change the way that you show up. It will change your business. It will change your relationships, both in and out of work. I've seen it so many times with teams and folks that I've worked with, and even in my own self. And so really, and each of us impacts one another. And so thank you so much for giving your time and your space. I hope that you've walked away with some thoughts or some ways that you can kind of shift how you enter into these tough conversations, and maybe not even see them as tough, or perhaps even shifting out of this level 1 through 3 energy around the big quit, and how you can start embracing these different levels of energy that will bring a different result for you and your business and the people that you work with. On that note, I think we're good to go, and feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. All right, thank you. Thank you for being here, Josh.